We are back to do a little bit more work on our interior space, and we have some work to do on our doors and window. So here is the opening that we're gonna be working on today. We're gonna open up this window. We're going to open up our door frames as well. We're gonna add our ceiling in, and then we are going to add our floor. So let's get started on that. I am going to open up where we left off last time at the end of lesson 2. Okay, so this is where we should have left off last time. We can switch back and forth between our default shapes and our wireframe here. And if you notice, we have the walls all closed off and the window is closed off. So this is where we're starting today. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is let's work on these doors here. And I'm going to save this so I don't overwrite it here. I'm going to call this my interior space. And this way I have a backup. If something goes wrong, it's not a bad idea for you to do this as well. I'm going to call this on ceiling and floor. Okay. So I'm going to, I want to select here my polygon surface just for the door. So I need to go over here. I'm in vertex mode. I can hit 4 on my keyboard or hit polygon. I'm going to select 1. Now if I select here, it's going to deselect that one. So I'm going to hold the control key, select number 2. Now I need to go on the inside of my shape. Okay, so I'm going to swing it around. I'm holding the Alt key and depressing my center wheel on my mouse to do that. I'm going to hold my control key again so I can have number 3 selected and number 4 selected. So I can swing around and look, 1, 2, 3, 4. Perfect. Now what I want to do is instead of hitting delete, I'll show you what happens. That opens up the space here in the wall. And now we have a gap here. And that's not really how walls work. There's going to be wood in the door frame here that fills that. So let me undo that. What we want to do is we want to bridge these out. So because I'm in my modify panel here and I have my tools chosen for polygon, I have my modeling tools up here. And under polygon tools, we have the bridge tool. This is going to connect our two polygons on each side that we did and fill in the gap here. So now the difference you can see here, it built this door frame around the edges for us, all 4 edges of our shape. We don't need it on the bottom here, so I can highlight that one and I can highlight this one, because what we're going to do is we're going to draw the floor in that space. Okay, so now I'm going to swing around and let's do the same thing here for our large wall-sized picture window. So I'm still in polygon selection tool here. So I'm going to select 1, rotate around, and I'm going to select, before I select, I'm going to hold the control key down and select. Go back up to my bridge tool under modeling polygons, click on my bridge tool. Okay, and if you want the hotkey for it, it's Shift plus click for settings. This is what it shows. I'm going to highlight this as well, and let's delete that threshold for the window. We're going to run the floor right underneath the window, and then later on, as we build the window out, we'll worry about that. Okay, so we have our spaces opened up. Okay, we can check and see how things look in wireframe as well, and they're okay. I'm going to restore my viewport, and I'm going to go into my overhead viewport, which is this top view for the next step here. So I'm going to maximize the top view. Alt W will do that as well. And now I am going to, let's do a new box, a new shape here. So I'm going to add, go to my Create tab, under shapes. And what we want to do now is we're going to draw a ceiling by reselecting kind of the original wall set that we used to draw the walls and extrude the walls. So we're going to go back into line. There's a bunch of different ways to do this. We can do it with rectangles, but out of all the ways that I've tried and experimented with, I think this is the easiest. I'm going to start here for the ceiling. Okay, there's my first line. And this one's going to be following around the walls, the interior walls only. I'm not going to worry about the door frames or anything else. I like to get nice and tight on my corners, and that allows me to get a really close image there. Okay, and click here, and click here. And what we're going to do is when we finalize and click on this last place, we're going to close off my spline a little more in depth. And then right here, let's close this off. And it's going to ask us, do we want to close our spline? Yes. Okay. So we have this shape that we just drew selected. Let's go into modify right away since it's selected. And we are going to extrude that. And then we'll look and see what it looks like. So I'm going to go down in modify extrude. All right. And it's extruded. I'm going to switch from that to default shading. And let's go back into restore our viewport. Let's see how it looks here. I'm going to turn off my wireframe for this viewport. And this is the one that I really want to look at. Okay. This is supposed to be our ceiling. And if you notice, there's some parameters while this is selected here. So I click on the extrude, and what we want to do is we want to make this 30 centimeters thick. Okay, that's about a foot thick. Okay, but obviously it's not in the right location for my ceiling. So there's a few ways that we can move this up. We can just do the math, or we can use the align tool here. Okay, we could move like we did the other tools and transform on my Z, but if we align this, and then I'm going to click on the wall. What I want to do is I want to align my Z axis on the maximum part of my space here. And I'm only focusing on my Z position. Now, let me see if I can zoom out a little bit and show you what's going on here with that. I'm going to select OK and what I did. All right, let's redo that one more time just so you get a feel for how that works. I hadn't actually used that tool like this before. And when I was preparing a second tutorial to figure out, I came across it and it worked pretty good. First of all, I want to get rid of this color. I am not a big fan of that pink with my yellow. So I'm just going to maybe make this a little darker here. All right. Now, so I have one shape clicked on, highlighted. My ceiling is highlighted. I'm going to go up into my toolbar on the top, and this is my align tool. If you don't have that, you can change your toolbar to default, and it's right next to our toggle scene explorer. We've used that before. So it shows that there's a line, and it has two shapes that are going to line up along that line. That's how that works. So I click on the tool one time, and the tool is active, and it wants me to pick a second shape that I want to align these together with. So I'm just going to click on the walls. When I do that, I might not have had that selected. Okay. Now, when I do that, you're going to have to give it some parameters. It's going to have a bunch of stuff checked, and it's going to look really weird. So we're going to turn off all of the X and Y's because we just want it to go up, and Z is up and down. Okay. That's my z-axis. And we want it to be the maximum for the current object and the maximum for the target object. So when we had our ceiling selected first, that is our current object, and our target object is going to be the wall around, which is we want that the maximum or the highest point as well. And then we click apply and okay. And that, without doing any math, that brought it up to the top. The other thing we can do is we could have just brought it up to 270. Now, let me maximize this viewport, and we still have to do our floor for this, okay? The floor, we have a little bit more manual work to do once again, but what we want this to do is we want the floor to go into the doorways here and also under the window. So let's switch to our top viewport. I'm gonna maximize the top viewport, and I'm gonna go back into wireframe here. You can do it in whichever one you'd like. But the difference here, so I'm going to go back into plus. I'm going to add, make sure I'm in my spline tab. So create. I'm going to go over to the second one, which is shapes. Grab my line. So now I am in the line tool under splines. Okay. Now I'm not going to start in this corner this time because I actually have to go past there. So with this one, I'm going to start in the bottom left-hand corner. I'm going to click on the corner here. I'm going to go now past this to get to the outside wall for where the window is. Okay, click here. And I need to get to the other side of the window, which is right here. And now we're going to go back into the room, follow the walls, and on the interior part of the room until we get all the way to the door frame. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Some nice mouse practice here. 5. All right, so now we do want to include these door frames underneath where the threshold will be. So I go there, click here. It's like we're running the flooring through the door. Okay, and that's very common on interior doors when you go from one room to another. So we want this space to mimic real life as best as possible. Here, here, and then we can close off our spline. Perfect. So we have a couple options. If you remember the train station, we were able to apply a tile setting in there. You could definitely do that in here as well. So I'm going to let you choose if that's the way you want to do that for your personal project. What I'm going to do in mine, if you notice that shape that we just did, it's still highlighted. I haven't deselected it, but it's actually lined up on the top, and I don't want that. So I'm going to drop that down. I'm going to grab my move tool. I believe they put it at the 270 mark. Let me see if that moves it down. 270, because for some reason it was putting it at the inside line of my ceiling, which was, our walls are 300 high, and it dropped it to this 30. But that's okay. We'll find it. And what we're going to do in this tutorial right now actually is we're going to use a new modifier here. So I'm going to go to my modifier list. And if you don't have this in here, we're going to look for this neat tool called floor generator. If you don't have that in your room, I can help you add it. There's a few separate steps that we have to do to add it. It's supposed to be built into 2020. It wasn't showing up in mine, and I had to add it as a plugin. So you have to have administrative rights to do that. So call me over if you get to that step and you need it added. I put it in the J drive so that I have access to it for using on the student computers. So when I put the floor generator on, what this does is this kind of automatically plunks in our flooring. And you can set it up to be tile with grout lines, or we can set it up to imitate real wood floors. Maybe I'll give it a little bit of a tan color here. Whatever, I'll let you figure out, and then you can add a material over it later. But basically, it breaks the floor up into the shape that we want. So the settings that we're going to use for this, for our basic stock, if you notice, I grab this arrow, drag it down, and I'm going to get it around 150. Okay, or you can just type it in 150, and then the width. I think I'm going to set the width to around 20. Okay, so I can bring that up here. That widens out those boards a little bit. If this is our wood floor, we don't need any grout lines in here, so I'm going to just set that at 0. I'm going to do my extrude now. I do want the extrude turned on, but that 1 is a little bit high for our board, so I'm going to drop that down to not 0.05, 0.5 of a centimeter, which is a half centimeter. And then the bevel, I'm going to turn that bevel down to, you see what happens. That's the bevel. I want to shave that down to actually like a 0.1 or 2. I think I'll do it at like, doesn't like that. Let's see how it looks at 0.1. Yeah, that'll be minimal. You can set it at 1/8 of an inch. That's like 1 millimeter. I'll let you choose how much you want to do, 1 or 2 millimeters. All right, that is our floor generator. So just quick, let's look at what we did. We opened up our door frames by bridging the polygon on the front and the inside and the outside. We did the same thing with our window frame. We drew our ceiling by tracing the line around, extruding it into a 30 centimeter deep extrude, and then we raised it up to the top using a new tool called our align tool. And then we used our floor generator for adding the floor, and that goes through the doorways and into the window frames. So thank you for joining me. We look forward to seeing you in the next video. And in our next one, we got some more exciting things waiting for you. So check it out and come again.